The great hall was filled with light from 1,000 floating crystals. Representatives from 12 different species sat in their chairs, each one designed for their strange bodies. Some had too many arms. Some had no arms at all. Some floated in tanks of liquid. Others existed as nothing more than clouds of glowing gas. This was the grand chamber of worlds, the heart of the galactic concord. For 10,000 years, these species had ruled the stars together. They had seen civilizations rise and fall. They had watched young species take their first steps into space, and they had decided which ones would be allowed to continue. Today, they were here to discuss a small blue planet called Earth. Ambassador walked to the center of the chamber. He was tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like stone. 4 yellow eyes blinked slowly as he looked around the room. His people had been part of the Concord for 6,000 years. They were known for being smart and proud. Some said too proud. "My friends," began, his voice smooth like oil, "I bring you news of a most amusing discovery." He waved his long fingers, and a blue sphere appeared in the air above him. It was Earth, spinning slowly, showing its oceans and continents to the assembled aliens. "This world sits in a quiet corner of the galaxy. We have watched it for 3 standard cycles now. The creatures who live there call themselves humans." He paused and let out a small laugh. "They are quite entertaining." Murmurs spread through the chamber. A few representatives leaned forward with interest. "Show us," said the ambassador, a creature that looked like a giant insect with too many legs. "What makes these humans so amusing?" Smiled, showing teeth that were slightly too sharp. "With pleasure." The image of Earth changed. Now it showed human cities, human vehicles, human people walking on streets and living their small lives. Then it showed their space program. "Observe their technology," said. "They still use chemical rockets. They burn fuel to push themselves into the sky like our ancestors did 15,000 years ago. They have sent machines to their neighboring planets, yes. They have even walked on their own moon. But look at how they celebrate these tiny achievements." The image showed humans cheering, crying with joy, hugging each other as a rocket launched into the sky. The chamber filled with laughter. They chittered loudly. The beings made of living crystal hummed with amusement. Even the ancient elders, who rarely showed any emotion, flickered with condescending light. "It gets better," continued. "They fight wars with each other, not wars of expansion or conquest for resources beyond their world. No, they fight over invisible lines drawn on maps. They kill each other over which god to worship. They argue about the color of their skin." More laughter. One of the gas cloud beings swirled with what might have been disbelief. "And perhaps most foolish of all," said, his voice dropping to a dramatic whisper, "they broadcast everything. Their music, their entertainment, their fears and hopes and dreams. They scream into the void, telling anyone who listens exactly where they are and how weak they are." He turned in a slow circle, looking at each representative in turn. "They believe they are destined for the stars. They make stories about meeting other species, about joining galactic communities. They dream of a future among us." He shook his head sadly. "It is almost tragic, almost." The ambassador raised one of its many limbs. "What do you propose, ambassador?" "Earth sits on a junction of 3 hyperspace lanes. Its system contains valuable minerals in the asteroid belt. The planet itself has abundant water and a stable climate." Clasped his hands behind his back. "I propose we claim it. The humans can be managed, put to work in mining operations. They are small and numerous. They breed quickly. They could be useful." "And if they resist?" asked its crystalline body catching the light. Laughed again. It was not a kind sound. "Resist? With what? Their chemical rockets, their primitive nuclear weapons that they are too afraid to even use on each other." He shook his head. "I have done the calculations. 40 ships would be more than enough. We could subdue the entire planet in a matter of days." The chamber fell into discussion. Representatives whispered to their aides. Votes were calculated. Ancient treaties were consulted. In the end, as had known it would, the decision was unanimous. Earth would be claimed for the conquered. They would lead the subjugation fleet. 40 warships, each one capable of destroying cities from orbit, each one carrying thousands of soldiers bred for conquest. It was overkill, really, but wanted to make a statement. He wanted the humans to understand from the very first moment that resistance was not just futile, it was laughable. As the chamber emptied, stood alone beneath the floating image of Earth. He watched the tiny lights of human cities glowing on the night side of the planet. So many of them. Billions of these creatures, living their short lives, dreaming their small dreams. "Enjoy your final days of freedom," he whispered to the image. "Soon you will learn your place in the universe." He turned and walked away, already planning his victory celebration. In the silent chamber, Earth continued to spin. Its oceans reflected starlight. Its clouds drifted peacefully across continents. From here it looked so small, so fragile, so utterly defenseless. But appearances, as the galactic conquered would soon learn, could be very deceiving. Deep beneath the surface of that small blue world, something was waiting. Something that had been waiting for a very long time. And it was almost ready. The subjugation fleet dropped out of hyperspace on a Tuesday afternoon. Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. He was younger than but no less proud. His gray skin was marked with the scars of a dozen campaigns. He had conquered worlds before. He had watched species bow before the might of the. This mission, he thought, would be the easiest of his career. Through the massive viewing window, Earth hung in the blackness of space. It was beautiful, he had to admit. Blue and green and white wrapped in a thin layer of atmosphere. Fragile, delicate, like a piece of fruit waiting to be picked. "Commander," his lieutenant reported, "the human satellites are scattering. They appear to be confused by our arrival." Smiled. "Of course they are. Begin broadcasting the subjugation decree. All channels, all languages." The message went out across every frequency the humans used. Radio, television, internet. Every screen on the planet flickered with the same image. The emblem, a spiral of stars wrapped in chains. And then came the words, translated into every human language by computers that had studied their broadcasts for years. "People of Earth, you have been selected for integration into the galactic conquered. Your world and its resources now belong to us. Your people will serve the greater good of the galaxy. Resistance is not advised. Surrender your governments. Submit to our authority. Serve with gratitude. You have one standard rotation to comply." Leaned back in his command chair and waited. He expected panic. He expected desperate military responses, missiles launched in futile defiance. He expected leaders to surrender immediately, begging for mercy. What he got was silence. For 17 minutes, nothing happened. The humans did not respond. Their satellites hung motionless. Their radio waves carried only confusion and shock. Then a single transmission came from the surface. It originated from a city called Geneva, from a building that served as a meeting place for human nations. The face of a woman appeared on the Eternal Dominion's main screen. She had dark skin and gray hair, and her eyes held no fear. Her voice was calm and steady when she spoke. "This is Secretary General of the United Nations. I speak for the people of Earth." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "We have received your message. We understand your demands." Leaned forward slightly. Here it comes, he thought, the surrender. "Our answer is no," said simply. "We decline your offer. Earth is not yours to take. We are not yours to command. Leave our system and we will consider this matter closed." The transmission ended. For a long moment the bridge was silent, then began to laugh. His officers joined him, their laughter echoing through the ship. "She declines," said, wiping a tear from one of his eyes. "How wonderful, how absolutely wonderful." He stood up and walked toward the viewing window. It seems the humans need a demonstration, something to help them understand their situation. He turned to his weapons officer. Target an unpopulated region on the northern continent, the desert area they call Nevada. Fire a single orbital strike. The weapon charged for 3 seconds. Then a beam of white light shot down from the eternal dominion and struck the earth below. A mountain vanished. In its place, a crater of glass and fire stretched for 20 kilometers in every direction. The explosion could be seen from space, a brief flash of light on the planet's surface. "There," said with satisfaction. "Now they understand what we can do. Let us see how quickly they change their minds." He expected immediate surrender. He expected terrified transmissions begging for mercy. He expected chaos. Instead, the humans went completely quiet. Every transmission stopped. The satellites that had been drifting in confusion suddenly went still. The radio waves fell silent. The internet, that strange network the humans used to share information, seemed to slow to a crawl. The entire planet held its breath. "What are they doing?" asked, his amusement fatting slightly. "Unknown, Commander," his lieutenant replied, studying the sensor displays. "They appear to be waiting." Waiting for what? No one had an answer. Hours passed. The silence continued. Sent more messages demanding surrender. None were answered. He considered launching more strikes, but something made him hesitate. The silence was wrong somehow. It did not feel like the silence of fear. It felt like something else, something he could not name. "Commander," the lieutenant said suddenly, his voice strange, "I am detecting unusual energy readings from the planet's surface." "What kind of energy?" I do not know. It does not match any known signature in our database." The lieutenant looked up, confusion written on his face. "It is coming from beneath the ground, multiple locations, every continent, and it is growing stronger." Walked to the sensor station and looked at the display himself. Red dots were appearing across the map of Earth. First dozens, then hundreds. They pulsed with power that the sensors could not identify. "That is impossible," whispered. "Our surveys showed nothing, no advanced technology, no hidden facilities, nothing." But the readings did not lie. Something was waking up down there, something huge, something that had been hidden so well that 3 years of observation had missed it entirely. For the first time since arriving in Earth's orbit, Commander felt a small seed of doubt take root in his chest. He pushed it away. These were primitives, chemical rockets and nuclear weapons. Whatever they were doing, it could not possibly matter. He was wrong. On the planet below, in facilities buried deep beneath mountains and oceans and ice, humanity's secret was finally ready to reveal itself. 70 years of preparation, 3 generations of work, trillions of dollars spent in the shadows, away from public eyes, away from alien observation. The laughing was about to stop. Deep beneath Cheyenne Mountain, General stood before a wall of screens. He was 63 years old, with iron-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. His father had stood in this same room. His grandfather had helped build it. 3 generations of his family had dedicated their lives to this moment. Around him, the unified Earth Command Center buzzed with activity. Officers from every nation worked side by side. American and Chinese, Russian and Indian, European and African and South American. Old enemies who had learned to become allies in the face of a greater threat. A threat that had finally arrived. "Status report," said, his voice calm despite everything. "All sectors reporting ready," a young officer replied. "Project Prometheus is online. Reactors at full power. Project Valkyrie is armed and waiting. Project Leviathan is beginning to surface." Nodded slowly. He had spent his entire adult life preparing for these words. Now that he was hearing them, it felt almost unreal. "Sir," another officer said, "the alien fleet has stopped transmitting demands. They appear to be waiting." "They are confused," replied. "Good. Let them stay confused a little longer. He turned to face the assembled commanders. They represented every major military power on Earth, men and women who had spent decades planning for war against an enemy from the stars. They had disagreed on many things over the years: politics, resources, strategy. But on one thing they had always agreed: humanity would not go quietly into the night. 70 years, said, his voice carrying across the room. 70 years ago, a craft of unknown origin crashed in the New Mexico desert. The world called it a weather balloon, a mistake, a hoax. We let them believe that. He pressed a button and images appeared on the main screen. Old photographs, grainy and faded. A strange craft half buried in sand. Bodies that were clearly not human. Technology that should not have existed. The craft was damaged but intact enough to study. The beings inside were dead, but their equipment still worked. And from that moment, everything changed. The images shifted. Scientists in laboratories working on strange metals. Engineers reverse engineering systems that bent the laws of physics. Factories hidden underground, building things that the public would never see. We realized two things that day. First, we were not alone in the universe. Second, whoever was out there was far more advanced than us, and if they were advanced, they might not be friendly. Walked slowly along the line of screens, each one showing a different secret facility coming online. So we made a choice. We kept our public space program small, primitive. We let the world see chemical rockets and tin can spacecraft. We celebrated moon landings and Mars rovers like they were our greatest achievements. He allowed himself a small smile. They were not. The real work happened in the shadows. We built facilities deep underground, beneath the ice of Antarctica, at the bottom of the ocean, inside mountains that looked solid from the outside. We learned to hide our energy signatures, to mask our construction, to keep our secrets even from satellites in our own sky. The main screen now showed blueprints, vast starships, advanced weapons, propulsion systems that had no business existing on a primitive world. We took what we learned from that crashed ship and we improved on it. We did not just copy their technology. We made it better. Human engineers, human scientists, human workers. 3 generations of the best minds our species had to offer, all working toward one goal. He turned to face his commanders. Survival. Sir, an officer interrupted. The alien fleet is beginning to move. They are preparing ground forces for deployment. How long? 6 hours until they reach launch position. Nodded. 6 hours, more than enough time. Show them nothing until I give the order. Let them think we are still hiding. Let them think we are afraid. He looked at each commander in turn. When I was a boy, my grandfather told me something. He said that humans are at their most dangerous when they are underestimated, when the enemy thinks the fight is already won. He turned back to the screens. Somewhere above them, 40 alien warships floated in Earth's orbit. Their crews were probably laughing right now, celebrating an easy victory, planning how they would divide up human slaves. Those ships up there, said quietly, they think they are looking at prey. They see a planet of primitives with outdated technology and petty divisions. They see an easy conquest. His hand moved to the control panel before him. A single button marked with a simple symbol, a rising sun. In 6 hours, we will show them what humanity really is. We will show them what happens when you threaten our home, our families, our future. Around the room, officers straightened in their seats. Hands moved to keyboards and control panels. The hum of machinery grew louder as systems that had been sleeping for decades roared to life. We did not want this war, said. We hoped we would never need to use what we built, but they came to our door. They laughed at us. They destroyed one of our mountains just to make a point. He pressed the button. Deep beneath every continent, hatches began to open. Ships that had never seen sunlight powered up their engines. Pilots who had trained their entire lives climbed into cockpits designed for moments exactly like this one. "Now," General said, his voice hard as iron, "we will make our point." The countdown had begun. Commander was drinking victory wine when the alarm started screaming. The glass slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. Red liquid spread across the metal deck like blood. He barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on the tactical display, watching it fill with impossible readings. "What is happening?" he demanded, rushing to the command station. His lieutenant's hands were shaking as he worked the controls. "Energy signatures, Commander. Massive energy signatures. They are appearing all over the planet." "How many?" The lieutenant did not answer. He did not need to. The display showed everything. Red dots were blooming across the map of Earth like flowers opening to the sun. First 10, then 50, then hundreds. They pulsed with power readings that the sensors could barely measure, power readings that should not exist on a primitive world. "That is impossible," whispered. "Our surveys showed nothing. 3 years of observation showed nothing." "Sir," another officer said, his voice high with fear, "the signatures are not just energy readings anymore. They are moving, rising." Ran to the viewing window and looked down at the planet below. What he saw stopped his heart. From the mountains of every continent, great doors were opening. Rock and snow slid away to reveal vast chambers hidden beneath the surface. And from those chambers, ships were rising. Not the clumsy chemical rockets the conquered had laughed at. These were something else entirely. The first ship emerged from the Himalayas. It was black as space itself, its hull seeming to drink the light around it. Angular and predatory, it rose on engines that made no sound and left no trail. Weapons arrays lined its sides like teeth. Then another rose from the Alps, and another from the Andes, from the Rockies and the mountains that had no names. They came like wasps from a kicked nest, smooth and silent and terrible. "The oceans," the lieutenant gasped. "Commander, look at the oceans." The seas were churning. Great shapes were rising from the depths. Carriers, each one larger than the eternal dominion. Submarines the size of small cities, lifting themselves out of the water and into the sky. Ships that had been built at the bottom of the ocean, where no satellite could see, where no sensor could reach. Watched, unable to speak, as Antarctica split open. The ice sheet that had covered the southern continent for millions of years cracked and fell away. Beneath it, arranged in perfect formation, waited a fleet beyond counting. And then the moon. The dark side of Earth's moon, the side that always faced away from the planet, the side that no human telescope ever showed the public, was suddenly alive with light. Shipyards, factories, launch platforms, an entire military base that had been hidden in plain sight. "How," finally managed to say, "how did we miss this?" A transmission came through, cutting across all frequencies. It was the same woman who had refused to surrender. But now she was not alone. Behind her stood military officers from every nation, united in a way the conquered had never imagined possible. "You watched our rockets," she said calmly. "You studied our broadcasts. You laughed at our little shows for the cameras." She smiled, and there was no warmth in it. "That was the point." The image shifted to show the rising fleets. Hundreds of ships now, thousands, still more emerging every second. "For 70 years we knew you were out there, watching, waiting. We found one of your observation probes when it crashed on our world. We learned what you thought of us. We learned what you planned to do." Felt his legs grow weak. He gripped the edge of the viewing window to keep from falling. "So we gave you exactly what you expected to see. Primitive rockets, petty wars, a species too stupid to be a threat." His voice hardened. "While we built the real fleet in places you never thought to look, underground, underwater on the far side of our moon, we took the technology from your crashed probe and made it better, stronger, more deadly." The tactical display was now completely red. The number of human ships had passed 2,000 and was still climbing. "You came here expecting sheep," said. "You found something else. We are humanity. We are survivors. We have crawled through ice ages and plagues and wars that nearly destroyed us. We have split the atom and walked on the moon and mapped the code of life itself. And we did all of that in just a few thousand years." She leaned forward, her eyes burning. "Did you really think we would bow to you?" The transmission ended. Stared at the screen, his mind refusing to accept what he was seeing. His 40 ships, which had seemed so powerful just hours ago, now floated like toys among giants. The human fleet surrounded them on every side, weapons charged and ready, pilots waiting for the order. "Commander," his lieutenant said quietly, "what do we do?" Had no answer. For the first time in his long career, he had no answer at all. The laughing had stopped. Now came the lesson. The battle lasted 11 minutes. Commander had ordered his ships to fire first. It was the only choice he had. Retreat was impossible. The human fleet had blocked every escape route. Surrender was unthinkable. No commander had ever surrendered to a primitive species. So he chose to fight, hoping that superior experience might overcome inferior numbers. He was wrong. The Terran ships moved like nothing had ever seen. They did not fly in simple formations or follow predictable patterns. They moved as one mind, each vessel knowing exactly where the others would be, reacting to threats before they even appeared. Later, survivors would learn that human pilots were connected through neural links. Their thoughts flowed between ships like water. What one saw, all saw. What one knew, all knew. Weapons fired. Plasma bolts and gravity beams lanced across the void. Some struck home, shattering smaller human craft, turning metal to vapor. But for every ship that died, 10 more took its place. And then the humans fired back. Their weapons were unlike anything in the Conquered's databases. Beams that bent gravity itself, crushing hulls like paper. Missiles that phased through shields as if they did not exist. Fighters that flickered in and out of reality, appearing inside ships to detonate their reactors from within. One by one, the subjugation fleet died. Watch from his bridge as the ship beside him exploded. Then another. Then another. His tactical display, which had shown 40 proud vessels just minutes ago, now showed only scattered wreckage and fading life signs. "Commander," his lieutenant said, "we have lost contact with the fleet. We are the last ship." Stood in the center of his burning bridge. Smoke filled the air. Sparks rained from damaged systems. Through the cracked viewing window, he could see the human armada surrounding him. Thousands of ships, tens of thousands. They hung in the darkness like stars made of anger. He had come here to conquer a primitive world. Instead, he had awakened something terrible. A final transmission reached his damaged communication system. The voice was human, male, calm, and almost gentle. "Commander, this is General of the Terran Defense Force. Your fleet is destroyed. Your ship is disabled. You have lost." Said nothing. There was nothing to say. "We are going to let you go," continued. "We are going to repair your escape pod and send you back to your galactic Concord. We want you to deliver a message." The viewing window flickered and an image appeared. It was the same View had seen when he first arrived. Earth, blue and green and white, spinning peacefully in the void. But now it was surrounded by ships. Human ships, Terran ships. A wall of metal and fire that stretched as far as sensors could reach. "Tell them what happened here," said. "Tell them what you saw. Tell them that Earth is not a resource to be harvested. We are not animals to be managed. We are not slaves to be taken." The image shifted to show human cities. Billions of people going about their lives, children playing, families eating together, workers building and creating and dreaming. "This is what you threatened. This is what you tried to take. Every single one of those people is now your enemy. Every single one of them would die before bowing to you. That is what it means to be human." His voice hardened. Tell your conquered that we remember every insult, every laugh, every moment of contempt. We have very long memories, Commander, and we are very patient." The transmission paused. "We do not want war. We never wanted war. We would have been happy to join your conquered as equals to share knowledge and trade and friendship. But you did not offer us equality. You offered us chains. So here is our offer instead. Leave us alone. Treat us with respect. Welcome us as partners, not as property. Do this, and we can build something wonderful together. Refuse, and we will come to you. Not in 40 ships, not in 400. We will come in numbers that will blot out the stars. We will come with weapons your scientists cannot imagine. We will come with the fury of a species that has survived everything the universe has thrown at us. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. Escape pod launched minutes later. He floated alone in the tiny vessel, watching as the human fleet parted to let him pass. They did not fire. They did not mock. They simply watched him go, silent and patient, like hunters who had already won their prize. The journey back to conquered space took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of silence and darkness, and the memory of 11 minutes that had changed everything. When finally arrived at the Grand Chamber of Worlds, Ambassador was waiting for him. The tall's 4 eyes were wide with disbelief as told his story. The assembled representatives listened in stunned silence. No one laughed. No one even breathed. "They call themselves humanity," finally said, his voice hollow and broken. "They call themselves the Terran people." On the great display behind him, new maps had been drawn. Earth was no longer marked as a primitive backwater. It pulsed at the center of known space, surrounded by fleet movements and defensive positions that made the entire conquered nervous. Human diplomats had already arrived at conquered stations. They came not with bowed heads and pleading voices. They came standing straight and tall, their eyes meeting alien gazes without fear. They came with offers of friendship and warnings of war. They came demanding a seat at the table that had laughed at them. And behind them, visible on every long-range scanner, the Terran fleet waited, patient, silent, ready. Looked at the assembled representatives, they who had chittered with amusement, they who had hummed with condescension, the ancient elders who had flickered with contempt. None of them were laughing now. "What do we do?" someone asked. Had no answer. He turned back to the image of Earth and stared at it for a long time. That small blue world, those strange, fierce, impossible people. "We welcome them," he finally said. "We welcome them and pray they truly want peace." He paused. "Because if they do not, there is nothing in this galaxy that can stop them." The chamber fell silent. In the darkness above Earth, human ships continued their patrol, watching, waiting, protecting their home and their people and their future among the stars. They had been laughed at once. No one would ever laugh at them again.